Right. This week, we are getting into week 2 of distance learning. Just to let you know, it is just as weird for the teachers as it is for the students. We all miss you terribly, and personally, I really hope that you guys are doing okay. Please reach out with any questions, concerns, comments. I just love to hear from your lovely faces. So this week, we are going to kind of continue with the topic of loans. Don't worry, we aren't talking and breaking down student loans anymore, and I'm not going to discourage you guys from going to college any further. This week, what we're taking a look at is credit. And credit plays a big role in loans and your ability to take out loans or get into those type of lending situations. So, without further ado, let's get into it. If you guys need any of the resources that I have compiled for myself while I am doing these lectures, you want to take a look at my video notes or go through the slides with all of the bullet points already up, then feel free to do that. I've posted those resources on the Google Classroom. If you don't see them or need any help accessing those, please let me know. I'd be happy to help you reach this information. Again, these topics that we're talking about, you guys voted on. You wanted to learn about the 4 topics, 4 weeks of topics before the end of the school year. These are the things even I wish I had known before I went off to college and started applying for loans and realizing how big of a role money actually plays out in the real world. So sit back, relax, learn about credit. All right, so what were we even talking about last week before we get into talking about credit? Well, we took a look at loans. Okay, so loans are banking institutions, and we also learned the government will give you loans, where they are loaning out people money. And in return for people getting that money up front, you're signing a contract where you're agreeing with that borrowing institution to pay back that money over time. Okay, so we saw a couple of different ways where typically student loans are going to be 10 to 15 years repayment plans, whereas mortgages are going to be more like 25 years, 30 years, and you're also agreeing to pay back a little bit extra, which is what we are calling our interest. Okay, so we learned some terms when it comes to talking about loans. Your principal amount is the amount that you originally asked for. Okay, so if you were taking out a loan for $10,000, $10,000 would be your principal. You also have your interest. And this is a percentage of that principal where you're agreeing to pay back that additional amount. Okay, so if you are going to be taking out a loan for $100 with 5% interest, you're paying back $105. Okay, and that $5 amount is your interest, the additional $5 amount. Okay, so the reason I am asking us to kind of think back to last week and what we were talking about with loans is primarily why we even care about credit in the first place. Okay, so your credit score is going to determine your interest rates and the banking institution's willingness to even provide you with a loan. Okay, so just remember, some good interest rates are between 3% and 6%. Your bad interest rates, I shouldn't say bad, your more unfortunate interest rates are going to be between 9% and 12%. Okay, so if you're someone with not a great credit score, you're probably going to end up with those worse off interest rates. Okay, so this is why we're even talking about interest and credit and loans in the first place, is because it's all kind of tied together. So why do we care, right? What is credit? Why do we care about it in the first place? Doesn't have anything to do with money. Well, it does. Okay, so credit is any form of a deferred payment. Okay, a loan is just a type of credit when you think about it. So what's happening is lending institutions are looking at your past payment history on other loans and even your bills before agreeing to lend you money. Okay, so if you have good credit, people are more likely to lend you money. If you have bad credit, you may get higher interest rates or not be approved for a loan at all. So these creditors are taking a look at you, taking a look at your history of paying back other people, and they're going to keep what's called the 4C's in mind. Okay, so just going through those. Okay, so your 4C's, your first one is capacity. Okay, so they will want to know where you work, how long you've worked there for, and how much money you make. The reason that they're taking a look at this is because they're looking at your trustworthy decision-making ability. And, do you have a steady income for future payments? Or are you someone who is jumping around, job to job, place to place? Okay, so they're looking at that kind of stuff. They're also going to be taking a look at your capital or how much income you typically have. They may ask for a history on your savings accounts or your checking accounts. Again, they're looking at the history of you and your money handling ability. Next, C is taking a look at character. So this is your willingness to repay debts. So they're going to take a look. Banks are going to be taking a look at past records of your bill payment habits and your ability to live within your means. Are you typically spending more than what's available in your checking account? Are you burning through credit cards? All of these different things. So they're taking a look at that kind of information as well. Where do they get information about your character and your past payment history? Okay, well, banks are going to get that information from what's called a credit bureau. And a credit bureau is an organization that provides information on individuals' borrowing and paying habits on bills. And these credit bureaus will also create your credit rating, okay, which is your evaluation made by the credit bureau of a borrower's overall credit history. So this is where you'll see those commercials for good credit, wanting to be at that 720 mark, okay? So this is public information, right? Any organization, any bank can apply for your credit history in order to get that information about you. And we'll get into later about how you can get that information about yourself as well. The last C that we're taking a look at is collateral. Okay, so what is collateral? Well, some loans are going to require individuals to tie property into securing a loan. So if you end up failing to repay that loan or you default on your payments, the creditor is going to take ownership of that collateral. So that's going to be like homes, cars, okay, so big item objects that are worth something. You're going to have to tie that into making a loan sometimes. This is, like I said, common with auto loans and mortgages. So if you fail to make payments on your car, the bank is able to seize your car as their own property since you weren't able to pay them back. Okay, so how do you establish credit? Well, you're going to want to maintain a savings and checking account. I highly recommend in Marshall to have the Marshall Community Credit Union set up an account for you. Andrea Tucker is awesome, and we also have 2 seniors every year that will set up these things for you. And I know that it gets some incentive for them, and it's good for you because you can have that savings and checking account post high school. You're always welcome to ask questions about this. If you need information on how to do this, please let me know and I can get you Mrs. Tucker's information. So a savings and checking account, as far as credit, can be used to show that you know how to manage money. Okay, so they're going to look at the pattern of income. How are you adding money into that checking account? And are you spending it all? Are you spending more than what's in your checkings and savings account? All again, getting to know your character and your trustworthiness for getting loans. Okay, so something else you can do to help establish your credit, especially as a young adult, is to get a department store charge card. So these are like if you go into Victoria's Secret or you've gone into some kind of shopping store, Abercrombie and Fitch. I don't know where people shop anymore. I'm cheap. But if you go into some kind of clothing store, sometimes they may ask, "Oh, would you like to open a charge card with us today?" I always say no, just because I have my own system for establishing credit, but this could be a situation where you say yes. And then these cards will only be used to make purchases from that particular retailer. So they're easier to obtain. You don't have to go through the whole background check and everything, but it can also help limit your spending. So you're creating some good bill paying habits. Just make sure you always pay back those bills when they come. You can use bank deposits as collateral for a credit card as well. This will help you establish your limit or your max amount that you're allowed to buy or borrow, but you are not exceeding the amount that you have. So it's kind of helping you keep that limit. You're never going to borrow more than what you actually have. You could also have someone with good credit, so maybe an older sibling who has really good credit, a parent or guardian, grandparent, help co-sign you for a credit card application. So you're using someone else's good credit and then establishing your own later on. Okay, so that's a good way to establish some of those credits. So how do you maintain good credit then once you have it? So you've established it, you've got some credit cards, you're using your checking and savings accounts pretty well. How do you maintain that good credit once you're there? Well, don't treat credit cards like free money. Okay, this is not free money. This is money that you are agreeing to pay back at a later date. So don't spend more than what you have or your ability to pay back in a couple of weeks, because then that's going to affect your credit score. Okay, make payments on time. Don't miss your payments. Okay, don't borrow more than you can pay back. Again, don't miss your payments. All of that history is then going to the credit bureau, and that credit bureau is going to then rank your credit score, which is then available to future lending corporations, future lending banks, and they are going to see, oh, this person 5 years ago missed their payments for a couple of months. Maybe we don't want to give them a loan. Okay? Don't borrow more than you can pay back. If you know in 2 weeks you're going to have $200 coming in, don't go buying a TV that's worth $500, because then you still can't pay back everything that you have spent over the last couple of weeks. Okay, and if you don't do these things, right, if you do miss payments, if you're not making stuff on time, this is going to result in you having a harder time acquiring loans in the future. Okay, everything you're doing at a young age now as an adult, unfortunately, it has consequences later on down the road. Decisions you are making at 18, 19, 20 years old, that's going to affect your ability to get a mortgage, get a auto loan, 10, 15 years down the road. So make those smart choices as a young adult now. How do I check my credit? Well, go to Experian.com. This is the one that comes recommended from me. You do not have to pay any fees in order to check your credit score, check your history, and you can get a report for free annually. Okay, there's a couple of other places that you're able to check your credit for free. If you set it up just right, you can check your credit for free quarterly throughout the year. Okay, but I usually check mine about annually. So every year I'm checking my credit. And this is a good way to see if your identity has been stolen as well. Okay, so check out Experian.com. They have a lot of great resources for helping you understand credit. Something I think is important for you guys to know as well is that when you are applying for good credit, or you're building up that credit along the way, these credit bureaus are not allowed to take some of the following things into account when establishing what your credit is. Okay, so it's forbidding creditors from using the following when establishing your credit worthiness. This is awesome. okay? Even though it's dealing with money, no matter who you are, money is going to look the same to you and be given the same to you without looking at some of these following categories. So your age, okay, so you can't be discriminated with your credit based on your age, your gender, your marital status, your race, color, religion, national origin, and public assistance income. Public assistance income is like if you're on welfare or you're getting some kind of government assistance because of low income situations. This is amazing. The fact that you can't be hurt because of these different categories when it comes to your credit. Okay, so that's just good to know. All right, so what are the different types of credit? What does credit look like out in the real world? It's more than just a number that you find on some website. What does it actually look like? Well, last week we talked about loans. Based on your credit is how much of an interest rate most likely you're going to have on loans and the repayment plans. If you need to refresh on what this looks like, loans and interest rates and how that all works, take a look at this link that I have attached here. This is our video from last week. Just giving you a refresher again if you are a little bit confused about how credit plays a role in loans. The most common form of credit that people are going to be talking about is your credit cards. Okay, so these allow you to borrow money on an ongoing basis to buy those smaller goods and services. So you can buy movie tickets, clothes, dinners, gas. Okay, those are some of the things that you're going to want to buy with credit cards. They could even be larger purchases that you could get on a credit card. So if you're taking a flight or a hotel stay, you can use your credit card and then pay it back later. So the most widely accepted are Visa and MasterCard. Okay, so most places are going to accept those. What happens is you're going to receive a monthly bill, and then you are required to pay back at least some portion of that balance each month. Okay, so some of the other things that are tied in with credit cards are annual fees, interest rates, and then there's other varying charges for different issuers. So just know when you apply for a credit card, you're also agreeing to pay some extra towards the company that is giving you that credit card. You also have what's called T&E cards or travel and entertainment cards. These are like your American Express cards. They're used more for airplane tickets, hotel stays, those kind of things. Those are the big travel and entertainment expenses. They're similar to credit cards. However, T&E cards, you have to pay in full each month what you owe. Okay, so you're not just paying a chunk of it, you're paying all of it. Whereas with a credit card, you just have to pay a portion down each month. Okay, with T&E cards, you're typically required to pay an annual membership fee as well. So yes, you would become a member of American Express if you applied for it. Now, something I want to clarify with you guys, because this is a question I get quite a bit. What is the difference between a debit card and a credit card? And I just want to cover this since we're talking about credit cards today anyway. Debit cards is when you're using money that is already in your account. That money is already yours. You have it, you can spend it, you just need a plastic way rather than cash to get that money to a company. Whereas credit cards, you don't have that money yet, but you're agreeing to pay it back later in installments. Okay, so debit card, you have it already. Credit card, you don't have the money yet, but you're getting a forward, essentially, on that money that you'll pay back later. So a resource that I highly recommend you guys check out if you're bored is discover.com. They are going to teach you or help you understand how to read a credit card statement, right? So at the end of each month, you're going to get this statement where it shows how much you owe, how much you've spent on different things, and it will also help you show what your credit score is, according to them. So they break it down real nice. They've got a full page version where they're going to have all of these different letters breaking down different sections of the card, and then they go in closer and really dive deep into what's going on in all the different sections. The link is here as well if you're curious about taking a look at that. They will summarize and kind of explain all of the different parts that go into a credit card statement. So that way, if you have any questions along the way with how do credit cards work? What kind of information do I get? How do I know how much I owe? This is the place you're going to want to check all of this stuff out. So, with that being said, I hope you guys are doing well. Again, please ask myself or Mr. Swatton any questions if you come across them. We're happy to help, happy to get you guys off into the adulting world as easiest as possible. So with that, we'll see